If we're going to survive shrinkflation, economic depression, prices rising sky high, we got to learn some basic skills. We have got to learn some of the skills that our grandparents had that got them through tough times. And here's the thing, if I can do it, you can do it. That should be the name of my channel. If Angie can do it, you can do it. With that said, I wanted to share these 4 very basic recipes, baking recipes that are not only something that I promise you, again, if I can do it, you can do it, but they are delicious. Your family will love them. They will make you feel like, okay, all right, I've got this. I can do more than cook top ramen. It is boy catching biscuit time. That's what I like to call these, are the boy catching biscuits. These are, they are really good. It makes me think of Princess and the Frog when she makes the man catching beignets or whatever she calls them. Anyways, so these are my boy catching biscuits, and they are so good. These buttermilk biscuits, y'all, they are so good. I will put information for the recipe down below in the description box, but I also ended up making a honey butter to kind of glaze the top of them with, which was quite delicious. I never promise that these recipes will be healthy necessarily, but look, the way I look at it is like anything made from scratch is healthier than something that's not, right? That's how we justify. So, I mean, look, there's 2 whole dilly dang sticks of butter in this recipe. And also my pastry cutter is just gone. I ordered another one, but it is not here. So I thought, well, yeah, I know you can use the back of a fork. I tried using the back of a serving fork, thinking that maybe that would make it go better because it's bigger. It really didn't. So then I just went to a regular fork and I was like, oh, this is taking forever. And then I was like, I wonder if I could use my potato masher. And in fact, yes, you can use a potato masher. It actually worked pretty darn well, similar to a pastry cutter anyways, just a little thicker and it's a little farther apart, spread out than a pastry cutter. But we got the job done, okay? And now I'm hot, so I got to put my hair up, Can't find my hair clip. It's all, just chaos all the time. All right, so we're just going to cut in the butter. This is kind of the thing with buttermilk biscuits. There's a few things that I feel like people end up making some mistakes with, and it's oftentimes not using cold enough butter and taking the time to really cut in the butter. But then also, I'll show you when we cut the biscuits that you can't twist the biscuit cutter, whatever you're using. A lot of times when we're cutting things out, sugar cookies or whatever, you kind of like cut it and twist. With the biscuits, you don't want to do that because it like seals up the edges of the biscuit and then it doesn't let it get that rise. So you'll see these biscuits get real tall and like fluffy and delicious. And that's because when you cut down, you just go straight down and out, not twisting. So you're not sealing up the biscuit so that it can rise, if you will. These are so good. I cannot even. These are so good.
Oh.
Good, huh?
Is that a honey butter? Look. Butter my biscuit.
Well, butter my butt and call me a biscuit, baby.
Oh, it's hot.
What's the plate, babe? Give me some plate. This one? You want some more honey butter on it? Perfect biscuit. Great. We are making some challah. I have never made this before, and this recipe is actually from Once Upon a Chef. We're starting by combining all the dry ingredients into the mixer bowl, and I'll put the link to the recipe down below in the description box, but it's 4.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of the rapid rise yeast, 2 teaspoons of salt, and that's like the dry ingredients. You want to mix those together. Then in a separate bowl, we are going to mix up the wet ingredients. I always hate saying that. That is going to be 3/4 cup of lukewarm water, 1/4 cup and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil, 1/4 cup and 2 tablespoons of honey. And then in a second, you're going to see me add 3 eggs that are at room temperature, plus 1 egg yolk at room temperature. And then we're going to combine all of that in the mixer. We're going to pour the wet ingredients into the dry ingredients with the dough hook on the old KitchenAid. I will be honest with you guys, I've been eyeing I think it's called Vevor is the brand name. It's a massive, like, rolling mixer. I kind of want it because I can like triple my recipes and I won't break the mixer. The KitchenAid can only handle so much. Sometimes you have to stop and give it a break, especially when you are using the dough hook. There's also a Bosch mixer that I've been looking at. All right, so once it's done, you want to bring it onto a floured work surface, and then we're just going to knead it a little bit into a smooth ball, and then in a greased bowl. So just like lightly grease a glass bowl, and you're going to place the dough in there. You're going to flip it over so that it's covered in the oil as well. You know, nothing crazy, right? Just lightly covered in the oil. And then we're going to cover the bowl with plastic wrap, and we're going to let that dough rise in a warm place for 2 to 3 hours. I won't lie, sometimes I cheat and I put mine on a heating pad so it rises a little faster. I'd keep the heating pad on low. Now comes the fun part. So you flip the dough over, add a little bit more flour to the other side, and you have to cut it into 4 even pieces. So she does say that you can weigh them if you want to make sure that each piece is 9 ounces. And then you shape it into these ropes, these long ropes. I think I needed to make mine a little longer. CR walks in while I'm doing this, and he's like, what in the hell are you doing?
I just need to get some hot water real quick.
We're making some challah, babe. We're making some challah. Don't get too excited.
Okay.
All right, then comes the braiding. Now, I apologize because I did not realize that my camera wasn't angled down enough that you could actually see what I'm doing here, but you kind of connect the pieces at the top, and then you just take you like fan them out, and then you take the farthest piece on the right, and you start by braiding it over, under, over, and then you just keep doing that. You grab the farthest piece to the right and go over, under, over until you get to the very end, and then you just kind of bring those ends together and tuck them under so that you have a finished edge. Then you place it onto a cookie sheet with some parchment paper and let that again rise for about an hour to 2 hours. She says to make sure it's 1.5 times the size, and then go ahead and preheat your oven to 350, and you put the loaf in, and mine ended up baking for about 30 minutes. Ooh, I forgot to tell you about the egg wash. That's right. You take that last egg and whisk it, and then place it generously over the loaf right before you put it in the oven. Now, I also sprinkled mine with some of these sugar crystals. This is not in her recipe. This does not call for that, but it made me think of the bread that I used to get in China, so I put the sugar crystals on it. And you can double check, which I did, that the center of the bread was at the proper temperature. That's all in the recipe. And then cut and enjoy. And let me tell you, it is delicious. You have to try this. It's pretty easy. I gotta say, it's pretty easy. We're hopping back in the kitchen because I'm about to blow your mind. Yes, ma'am, I am. We're gonna make some homemade donuts. These are so good. I will put a thing in the description box if you would like the recipe for these. They're amazing. Now, there's a few things that are a little old school. You have to scald the milk. You don't have to give your dog pepperoni from the fridge like I am doing, but it helps to get them to leave you alone. Stella, man, she's such an old lady. And she's like a shark. You can see that I kind of like barely hand her the snack because she will take your friggin' finger off because she can't see anything. So anyways, you have to scald the milk for these. So I feel like sometimes recipes like this people shy away from because they want like just the super quick and easy. But proofing the yeast and scalding the milk for this recipe is what makes them basically fail-safe and delicious every single time. So, oh man, they are so good. I cannot even tell you. But it's very simple though, right? So you've got your yeast that's proofing. Don't put the eggshells in there. Take those out. Your milk that you have scalded. And then there's eggs, a little bit of salt, of course, some sugar. And of course, butter. Now we add in the yeast, the scalded milk, flour, and then we're just going to set that dough aside to rise. You're going to cover it and let it rise hour, 2 hours. It just kind of depends on how warm the environment is, but you want to let it double in size. And I'm just refilling my sugar and flour containers. I need to label some of these, but I'm just refilling my canisters, my jars, and then we're going to make the glaze because these are going to be glazed donuts. So this does require a lot of powdered sugar, y'all. A lot of powdered sugar. I didn't promise this recipe was healthy. I'm sure there is such thing as a healthy donut recipe, but I'm sure it tastes disgusting. These are delicious. So you mix together some powdered sugar, some cornstarch, a little bit of heavy whipping cream, little bit of butter, just a little bit, vanilla, and then warm water to the consistency that you want the glaze. Look at that. Yummy. Once your dough has poofed up, it has doubled in size, risen fully. Now comes the fun part. You get to roll it out. And I discovered very quickly, this dough is a little, I don't want to say tougher, but kind of, than some of the other stuff that I make. But this pour board, which I love this cutting board, y'all, because it gives me this extra counter space here. However, a little hard to roll out dough. So next time I would have done it on the actual counter because it keeps slipping, driving me a little bit nuts. But you're going to roll it out. And then if you have a donut cutter, use that for sure, 100%. I don't. So I'm using a cookie cutter and a cake icing topper thing. I get creative, when I'm like, I don't really have that exact thing. We make it work, and this works. Sometimes I make also like these little donut holes, these fried donut holes, which you don't have to shape. And, like when you're doing bagels, you just like shape that by hand. But with these, I really, because I'm making them for YouTube, y'all, for a video, I really wanted them to, have the nice donut shape. And then we are going to fry up these babies. So, sorry, once you cut them out and set them aside, you want to let them rise again. You can see they've gotten floofy. They're not flat anymore. They're floofy. And you want to fry them. I'm frying mine in canola oil. I find that that's kind of the best for frying and not wasting the flavor too much, getting too much of the oil flavor on them. But you also want to only fry a couple at a time and try to keep them from not touching. Just let them, do their thing apart from each other. So I fry maybe 3 or 4 at a time for a couple minutes. If that, the temperature of the oil should really be around 360, 365. I keep mine a little there or lower because I'd rather it take just a smidge longer than to burn them. You could see the first couple that I did, the oil was right at 365, and I felt like I could barely keep them in there before the outside was burning. So I kind of go around that temperature, and then I dunk them in the glaze and, just use a fork, dunk them, pull them out. I put mine on a cookie drying sheet with parchment underneath because, well, they're messy. They're not the cleanest thing ever. But let me tell you, these are so good. I think this is a pretty easy recipe. Like I said, I feel like it seems a little more intimidating because it has the scalded milk and stuff. So it's an extra step, but these are so delicious. Oh my gosh, they're so delicious. My family absolutely devours these. Look at that. Oh yeah, baby. All right, y'all. Now we are going to do one of the easiest things in the world, make one of the easiest things in the world to make that I feel like when you start talking about basic skills and stuff, a lot of people, myself included, get really overwhelmed. But making your own butter is so easy. And I thought it would be kind of cool if I just left the camera on and did a time lapse so you could see the process that the cream goes through. If you have a stand mixer like this is definitely the way to do it. Of course, you can churn butter by hand, and I have a cute little mason jar churn, which is fun for the kids to do, but it's a workout, let me tell you. So also depending on the quality of cream that you're starting with, the process can be faster, slower. You want it to be room temperature, things like that. I did for this time because I wanted to film it while I was doing other stuff. I kind of did all the wrong things. The cream was not super warm. It's ultra pasteurized, which is all that I had. Not good, but tastes amazing in the end. It still works out. Just goes to show you everything doesn't have to be perfect and it'll still work out. But you can see that you just put 2 cups of heavy cream, or, if you can get from a local dairy place, or if you have a dairy cow, you want that nice cream. And you'll see that it goes through the process where it starts to become like whipped cream, right? That's, we all know how to make whipped cream, easy peasy. Well, add some sugar and stuff in there too. But then you just let it keep going beyond that, okay? You're just going to let it keep doing its thing. And this is despite the fact you're watching it at 8 times speed. This is on a low-ish setting, low to medium setting. And it will go past that whipped cream point, and eventually it will start to separate into a liquid and a solid. And then at some point I'll have to stop videotaping or recording. I have to put a dish towel over it because once it starts to separate like that, it'll start to splash. And first of all, you don't want to waste that liquid because that's delicious buttermilk, but also it can be very, very messy. So I do have to toss a dish towel over in a second. But this is about a 20+ minute time lapse that you're watching come together. So it's depending again on the factors of how good the quality is, the room temperature, all of that, the temperature in your house. This can be faster or slower, but for me on this day, it was about 20 minutes in the mixer like this. And then you can see that it's kind of looks like some almost like curd looking things. And then you just keep going. And eventually, I promise, not too crazy. Oh, it starts to go liquid on you. And then you get a solid. And that's your butter. And so you just take that solid butter that you get out of it. And then, of course, I highly recommend keeping the buttermilk as well. But once it's in a solid, then you just rinse it under cold. Excuse me. You rinse it under cold water and just kind of squeeze it out under that cold water until it is like squeezing out clear and not like muddled water. And then you've gotten as much of that buttermilk out, which keeps the butter fresher longer and makes it last longer. And then you can flavor it. So I'm just adding some salt to mine for this. We're just making some plain old salted butter, but if you needed unsalted butter, you could do that as well. If you wanted to add herbs or, honey, make honey butter, like there's all kinds of things you can make, but it's, I don't know, it makes you feel like ma and pa on the trail, like you actually have some skills and it's super easy. So I'm just pouring the buttermilk into a mason jar that I have a screw top lid for, and I'm going to put that in the fridge.